When you look at your life, right? If you look at anyone who is successful, anyone who has attained anything, you will find that they live by a certain set of beliefs and values. Okay? They drive their own boat, if you will. They're not a passenger in their life. They're the ones who dictate what happens in their lives. It's very important for you to have a core set of beliefs and values, because those core sets of beliefs and values are the ones that will keep you on a steady path. The problem with a lot of people is a lot of people don't have, well, I shouldn't say they don't have core beliefs. They don't stick to their core beliefs and their values. They allow themselves to be influenced by other people. So that's why people wind up living lives that they don't even agree with, because what? They're listening to other people. They spend more time listening to other people than listening to themselves. Okay? The people who are successful, the people who are happy, the people who have fulfillment in life live by their own beliefs and their values. It doesn't have to line up with what you think. It doesn't have to line up even with what society thinks. It lines up with how they feel and how they process. Because at day's end, like my dad used to say, you live with you. You have to be comfortable with what you do. You have to be comfortable with, who you are. You have to be comfortable with the decisions that you make. And even if you're doing what society tells you is cool, if it doesn't line up with your core beliefs, you're not going to like it. You're not going to have contentment. You're not going to have satisfaction. And that's where a lot of people find themselves. If you look at our society changes on a daily basis. One day, one thing is acceptable. The next day, it's not. The people who find true happiness, the people who find success and contentment, and like I said, happiness is when you're happy. Success is when you're happy with yourself. Okay? And if you can't find that, right? If you're living by society's rules, right, and not satisfying your rules, you are conflicted. Exactly, Drew. You're going to have conflict within yourself. Like the saying says, happiness, true success, is when what you think, what you say, and what you do all line up. The problem with a lot of people say and do one thing, but they're thinking another thing. You're creating conflict within yourself. You will never find happiness. You will never find contentment. You will never find peace of mind, which is what life is all about. Okay? If you can't line up what you think, say, and do, you're lost. Which is why when people ask me, how could I do this and being on social media and whatever, I say it's very easy, because I don't have to pretend. What I think, say, and do all lines up. I live by my code. I live by what I believe is non-negotiable, and I can defend anything that I say and or do, because that is truly how I think. That is truly what I believe. That is truly what I do. Okay? And in that, once again, you have to spend more time listening to yourself than listening to the opinion of others. Now, we've talked about this before. First, you have to now get yourself to a place where you're thinking properly, where you're thinking more on a broader scale, not just about you, but you do come first, if that makes sense. All right? Once you start to live by your beliefs and your values, the next thing is that you have to set your priorities. What is important? What is non-negotiable? What are the things that you must have in your life? A lot of times people are held back by some things that they deem are non-negotiable. I shouldn't say held back. Everybody lives by the things that they deem are non-negotiable. But what are those things? Are you going to sacrifice your progress for comfort? Because for some people, comfort is a non-negotiable. But we talked about it yesterday. You can't grow in comfort. Are you going to sacrifice your peace of mind for the opinions of others? Because once again, you will not find your happiness there. What are you willing to do in order to defend or promote your priorities? Because your priorities should come first. Your priorities are what dictate the things that you do. Once again, your success is going to be determined by what you have marked as non-negotiable. So whatever that is, it is going to dictate your entire life. Some people, their non-negotiables are instant satisfaction, instant gratification. I gotta have. And all these gotta haves take you away from the things that you should truly have. Some people can't stop eating certain things because they gotta have it. So they sacrifice their health, they sacrifice their better body, they sacrifice their relationships sometimes for the things they gotta have, like alcohol, like hanging out. What are your priorities? Set your priorities. Because based on your beliefs and your priorities, that's where you'll develop your feeling of contentment. But once again, nothing is inherently wrong or right. It's about lining things up. Okay? It's about lining things up. And when you line yourself up with the proper beliefs, the right priorities, that's where your contentment is going to come. That's where your peace of mind is going to come. That's where that thought, words, and actions line up. So, we've been talking about making progress in your life. We've been talking about, taking action in your life. But what are you living for? What is your purpose? What do you think is non-negotiable? Because that is what's going to dictate. That is what's going to drive what you do. And if you're not clear on that, then that's where you need to start. Clarify your purpose. All right? Someone says to do so you might have to take risk. To do so you will have to take risk. We talked about that yesterday. All success, all progress has risk involved. And sometimes the biggest risk you can take is doing nothing. Okay? That is sometimes the biggest risk you can take in your life is doing absolutely nothing. All right? Yeah. Someone says you must jump. I like that idea about you must jump, but it's not so much about a jump. You must move. Okay? Because sometimes when people hear the word you must jump, they think that it's an immense risk. A lot of times it's not. A lot of times the people who believe in themselves, the people who actually do something, is because they actually believe in themselves. It's not so much a risk when you know you have the skill, when you know you have the talent, when you know you have the ability, and you see an opportunity. It's not a jump, it's a move, but you have to move decisively. You have to move decisively. Nobody's saying, quit your job and go and try out for the NBA knowing you don't have the skills, the talent, the ability, or anything like that. No. That's crazy. And no one say be crazy. But we do know that if you have the skill, you have the talent, you have measured your skill, your talent, and you see a clear-cut opportunity, why are you waiting? What is it that you're waiting for? What sign do you need? That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. So I hear sometimes when people say jump, right? It's not so much about a jump. It's about a move, but a decisive move. You're right. Someone says plan your move. But don't sit there and stay in the planning stage forever. Because it's never going to be perfect. You will have things that will be imperfect in your decision, in your move. Sometimes you have to make your opening. What I decided is non-negotiable in my life is progress. Progress is my non-negotiable. Improvement is my non-negotiable. Growth is my non-negotiable. Knowledge is my non-negotiable. And that's why every single day I come out and I look for progress. I look for improvement. I look for growth. I increase my knowledge because that's how I keep moving. If you can make those things your non-negotiables, you might be on to something. And that's not to say I'm never happy. I'm very happy with my life. All right? But I'm never stagnant. I never think I'm perfect. I never think I got it. I always think, how can I do this better? How can I make this better? How can I challenge myself? How can I push myself to another level? I always re-examine my process because growth is my non-negotiable. Growth in all facets of my life. The person that I was last year this time, I am much better than I was last year this time, mentally, physically, intellectually, spiritually. All these things are the components of your life. And if you're growing yourself simultaneously in all those levels, you're on to something. What is non-negotiable? I tell you guys, I wake up I ask myself every week, what did you learn this week? Because if you go through 7, 8, 10 days and you can't point to anything new that you learned, once again, if you're not growing, you're dying. So that is why growth is my non-negotiable. Growth keeps you alive. The biggest trees that you can find in the forest, they grow every day. They show you that because they shed leaves and they grow new ones. The moment they stop growing new leaves, that means they're dead. What new leaves are you growing? That's why growth is my non-negotiable. What things are you clinging on to? Are those things that you're clinging on to improving or fostering your growth? Or are they stifling your growth? Sometimes the comforts of our lives that we cling on to stifle our growth. Once again, you can't reach out for something new if you're still trying to hold on to something old. Sometimes you have to put down the old in order to reach for the new. In fact, most times you do. And sometimes there's that gap between the old and the new that is uncomfortable. Most times that's what it is. But you have to put that down in order to reach for something new. Once again, that is why growth is my non-negotiable. And if you can set growth as your non-negotiable in all facets of your life, you might be on to something. I literally sit back and I look at some of the things that now I look at, and because of my expanded thought, because of the way I think now, because of the way I have grown myself, the things that I found interesting, the things that I found funny, I have a different view on it. Why? Because I'm different. And I don't look down on who I was, much like I don't look down on somebody who doesn't feel the same way I feel. But I appreciate my growth and I appreciate my new perspective. So ask yourself for Thoughtful Thursday, what are your non-negotiables? And take a good look at your non-negotiables and ask yourself, are these things that I find non-negotiable, are they propelling me forward or holding me back? Because a lot of people's non-negotiables are comforts. And comfort and growth does not exist together. A lot of times people's non-negotiables are image, how they look to other people. I have to look a certain way. I have to do these things. That will prevent you from growing. Are you living by your own beliefs and your values? What are your beliefs and your values? What are your priorities? What are your priorities? Are you more concerned about impressing people or growing yourself? Are you more concerned about pleasing people or living according to your beliefs and your values? Are you more concerned about the opinions of other people to the point that you're ignoring your own priorities, your own values, your own opinions? Does what you think, say, and do line up? Are you in congruence with yourself? Is it a priority for you to be in congruence with yourself?